So welcome back for another video. This video will probably be two videos that are edited and put together as one, just because I'm not really quite prepared to paint something with these watercolors tonight, although I would like to. This is perhaps one of my most traveled with watercolor sets. This is a Koi watercolor. I believe, I might be mispronouncing this, but it's Sakura is the brand. This, I believe, is also a Korean-made watercolor set. It might be Japanese, that that I got a couple years ago. Now, one thing I haven't done is I haven't made watercolor swatches with it, so I'm going to do that today, but I wanted to show it with you. So this is the smaller set, and this is just their pocket-filled sketch box. And when you open it up, it has a little mixing palette area. It has this, which is really neat. This is a water brush, and I actually do have water in here. I don't know how old that water is at this point, but you take the brush, you screw it together, and there you have your watercolor brush for when you're traveling out. I actually have a number of these. This is the only one I have that takes apart like this, but I leave it here in case I need it. Now this part right here is my own addition. It's a very hard sponge right now. It's something that I will dampen and then am able to use it with the watercolor brush just to, clean off my brush real quick. Here are the colors. As you can tell, they've already been used a bit. They are all rock hard right now, which is how they actually come. Now to wet these, sometimes I do this. I have an old, I don't know what they're technically called. We call them booger suckers. My kids aren't big enough or old enough to need them now. So sometimes I'll pick up some water like this and just put a few drops onto the watercolor itself. And this just kind of helps with the pre-moistening so that I don't have to really work my brush into that. So I'm going to let that sit for a moment while I talk about this set. The pieces that I painted with this set are not ones that I've ever offered for sale or anything. And it's not because the set themselves is not good or anything. It has more to do with what I've painted. So I had one evening back a little over a year ago, where I used primarily red and blue and painted at night at the Grand Canyon. I couldn't really see what I was doing. So it was a fun little exercise, kind of mentally knowing what I'm painting as I'm painting it. Obviously, it didn't turn out well enough, I think, for it to be included as a sale piece or anything, but it was fun. And that's the nice thing about a small set like this. These are fun to experiment with. Now, I have a small set of colors, again, a swatch set. Again, it's set up so that it'll be laminated and placed into the lid here so that I'll have a quick reference to the colors when I want it. Now I'm going to do this a little differently than I did last time. Let me get some paper towel here. Last time when I did this, I just wetted the paper and tried to mix the two. I'm just going to put straight color down this time. Now I am using my black velvet squirrel hair brush. I believe it's squirrel hair. I'm using that because I want to. No other reasons. And I divided this up. We have 3 across, 4 down on each row, and we're going to go from light to dark. So I'm going to start with the white and just place that down. I am placing it over the number that I wrote just so I can see what it does, and I can already tell you it clouds it up a bit. I'm not a fan of white watercolor. I rarely ever use it. I do, of course, use yellow. Now, an interesting thing with this set, and I don't know why, I don't know if it has to do with ordering them or things like that, but it never came with any names for the colors. It came with these little numbers written underneath of it, so that's what I have to go by. Now, when I'm doing this video, obviously it won't be posted till well in the future here because I have other videos that are going up currently. But when I'm doing this, this is in the new year. It is actually just pretty recently in the new year, and there's a lot of turmoil going on. And it's one of the reasons I decided to paint tonight, because I need that little bit of personal release. Um, you know, I try not to be too political and things like that on my Facebook page. I've been trying just to do art and keep things positive, but sometimes even that gets away from me, and you end up, there's times you need to say stuff. And I just had one of those times tonight. So if you're watching this in the future, you may know what I'm referencing. I don't know. It'll be interesting to know in the future how important or unimportant, I should say, it was. Now, I do want you to notice where I'm holding my brush. I am holding my brush very far back, and there's a reason for that. I'm painting in this area. I'm not looking for fine painting. So when what I've learned is when you choke up on the brush, just like when you choke up on a pencil, you're doing fine stuff. When you're back farther, it allows you to be more free with the movements. And this is, of course, not that type of painting where I'm excessively worried about that, but it is a good habit to be in and good practice. That's a lovely shade of blue there. It's kind of dark, kind of got a grayish, I just want to say a grayish tint to it. It's probably their ultramarine, because this next one I think is their cerulean blue. That's the typical blue you would use like for a sky. Now when I did that painting, that weird painting at the Grand Canyon, I used that blue a lot. And looking at it, I think I wish I would have used that one. That would have been a little nicer, a little more akin to a night painting exercise. So when I do these things, as I've said before, I like to just kind of focus on the colors, just be in the moment of what these colors look like, and how these colors might make me feel. What colors might I play with? Because one thing I've learned as you paint, you have certain colors you tend to gravitate to. So remember, at least for me, with watercolor painting, I'm not trying to make a picture. Or take a picture. I'm trying to make a painting. So that's important to note for me, because I'm one of those people, I would easily get frustrated by the fact that my picture doesn't look exactly, my painting doesn't look exactly like the picture. But that's not the point of a painting. And I know, with everything being online now, we tend to compare what we can do to what other people do. And that's one of the great things about art, is it's not about what other people can do. It's only about what I am able to accomplish. Now, having said that, I do really appreciate people purchasing my art, which means it's kind of affirmation that, yeah, this is good. At least I thought it was good, and so other people think it's good. But it's not even about that. It's about the picture through my eyes, what I see, what it looks like to me. I try to represent colors, but not necessarily. So that means in a certain palette, I might gravitate more towards one color or another. And I haven't played enough with different kinds of palettes to really discover how different brands of color I want to mix together. That'll be an eventual thing that'll happen, I'm sure. Although what I see a lot of people do is they will do individual different brands palettes and then just switch between them. All right, so this is their black, and obviously, well, first off, I'm running out of spaces to hold on to my paper here, but I painted over that number, and I probably shouldn't have. That is very much a black. And black, again, in watercolor is not a color I tend to use the most. But it's nice to have in a palette, because sometimes if you're not carrying a pen, you can use black to do some fine point. Because as you can see here, I can get a very fine point on that brush, which is great. I can do some line work if I want to, but usually if I don't have a pen, I'll just wait. So this is what these particular watercolor look like, the Koi watercolors from this particular set. It is a small palette, a limited palette. I do want to encourage you, if you're looking to buy a set of watercolors, don't be afraid of a small palette like this. Sometimes it can be very freeing having less colors to choose from. When you know what it is you're trying to accomplish, or you know what look you want to look for, it can be very helpful. So I assume we're going to be right back with doing a painting on this together. This will dry up and I'll show it to you, and we'll go from there.